I'm Eric.
I'm Rich.
And I'm Craig.
And we are Whose Turn Board Games. In today's video, we're going to be reviewing the game Scythe. Scythe is a area control, resource management...
Action selection.
Yeah, action selection, mind game,
Even a little NG buildy, a little bit.
I would disagree on that.
Well, a little, but you're building your own economy.
Yeah.
Upgrade is the only real engine-esque build.
Yeah.
So it does have a little bit of everything. It is a very beautiful game, and it's been out for a while. Like 2015, I think, is when it first originally came out. There's an expansion for it. I think is there one or two?
Two expansions and like a scenario campaign type expansion.
So it's 1 to 5 players. It takes up to about 2 hours. Really, it's about an hour and a half to 2 hours with the experience levels overall and the number of players. So that is pretty accurate for the board. It's out by Stonemaier. They are very good at making really fun, beautiful games. So that's kind of the general overview. I will start off by saying this about the game. I absolutely love how much of a mind game it is. I really don't typically like those all that much overall, but this one is very much a high strategy in order to win. Because you can play the game just by itself, but you're probably not going to win. You need to really strategize the whole way, beginning to end. And I think this last game, by like turn 3, I'm like, I did 2 moves wrong, and that's probably going to cost me the game, which isn't always true. And it was just a thought I had. I did lose the game, but it wasn't that lost me the game. But I love that. I love that about these kind of games.
Yeah, and especially with some parts of the combat are really mind gamey. So like, there's just lots of things you can do with it. So like, just because I'm attacking somebody doesn't mean I'm going to use all of my power, throw my cards, use all of my stuff. I could just, throw a little bit or even throw nothing if I'm attacking, and the person defending all of a sudden throws all their stuff at it. Well, now they don't have anything, and now you can just attack them multiple times and beat them up. You really have to think of what the other person is doing and then see where they're going and what they're doing. It's not all about what you're doing. The last game we played, I could have finished the game about 4 rounds before I did, but I couldn't, because if I finished it, then Craig would have won. Then after the next turn, then Eric would have won. And then, I like what you said with mind gaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
High strategy is what
Yes.
It's very strategic.
Yeah, like he was saying, that's another thing you got to keep track of, and it's a little harder to keep track of it, is just like what you're going to end with in points, because just because you can end it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win if you do end it, because areas that you control are significant points in this game. So just someone who has spread out has a really high likelihood of winning, even if they are not the ones that end the game.
Yeah, totally agree. And there are definitely there's 5 different factions and for the base game, and each one plays very differently. Like, they all have their strengths, they all have their weaknesses, some more so than others, and they even say that in the introduction booklet that 2 of them are a little overpowered. But that being said, anyone can still win. Like, we have the game's been out so long that there's a lot of meta, there's a lot of everything, and even though that's a good starting point for getting ideas, don't let that control your life. Like, just enjoy the game in general and have a lot of fun with it, because there's so many options to do and so many things to do in this game.
Yeah, and even, I know there's tier lists and other thing else is out there. Just because you have a worse combination doesn't mean you're going to lose the game to somebody, even if they're a good player. Because who knows how the biggest thing, the biggest unknown, and how you can't meta this completely really, is the interactions between people. Which combats you take, where you do it, how do you do the combats, what do you throw. All of that comes into play, and then there's the luck of factory cards and encounters.
Yeah, the encounters, in my opinion, are probably one of the biggest things in the game that kind of fluctuate especially early game, because it allows you to get extra things out at the cost of popularity, which popularity is very important in this game, so it's kind of rough to lose it, but at the same time, usually the game doesn't last long enough for you to just stockpile popularity, in our experience at least.
Yep, and that is one thing that we've not tried that yet, so maybe that would be something that we could do. But either way, that's why there's so many options. One thing I absolutely love, as I mentioned at the very beginning, was how beautiful the game is. Every single player board has little indents where everything goes. Everything's got a place, everything fits nice. Every time you upgrade, you move one spot from the top down below. There's indents to indicate where it is. I love that. This game definitely made me realize that I love when that happens. It wasn't this game in particular, like when we just started playing it just recently, but I played this about a year ago a couple of times, and that made me realize I love when everything fits perfect.
Yeah.
And it has, not only just does each faction get mechs, they all have differently designed mechs.
Yes.
So their own sort of thing. So I mean, if you like miniatures, moving those things around the board, I mean, this is the thing for you too.
Yeah.
Yes.
That and to piggyback off your popularity thing, it's also just a resource too. Like a thing I like about the game is you're not only are you managing resources like, you know, iron, food, and barrels of oil, but you have 3 different tracks that kind of act as resources too, with your bolster, your popularity, and coins.
The only downside I would say on this would be if you get far enough into it and you play it enough to where you kind of know the strategies, there is some factions that can be kind of broken. So if you start to know how to play them, you can have a very clear advantage. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win, but you will have a significant advantage over some other players if they get a worse combination of faction and card.
Yeah, and that's part of the meta, and that's part of it. And there are definitely, like, when you're looking at it, if you haven't yet, like, when you're looking at it, definitely notice that there's 2 that seem a little more overpowered. There are. Yep, there are definitely 2 that are a little more favorited online in general, just as favorites to win. I lost with that. So it's not that just, you know, it wasn't not because I'm a bad player, I'm still a mediocre player, but that doesn't mean that. But it is a mindset, because when you 2 saw that I got that, were you both like, oh yeah, I'm going to totally dominate this, and you're like, oh my god, I need to make sure that he doesn't run away with this because his abilities can't let him do that.
It's definitely that. It's you're watching it, and but that's part of what I love about this game too is, you know, Rusviet can just kind of run over everything. So you're watching what they're doing, and then it's okay. Well, how can I interrupt what he's doing? But still help me, because you also don't want to waste turns doing things that aren't like. You know, you want to get to as many bottom row actions as possible. And if you're doing too many turns trying to interrupt because, like, your move's over build and you're not building, but you're just moving to interrupt the other players, you're doing a lot of nothing.
Well, and that's where a lot of the meta, like you said, kind of comes into play, is that I had it last time where I moved and then my upgrade was underneath it. I got a factory card, which, spoilers, if you get into the center, that's the whole goal of the game is to try to get there, like, in the lore of it is anyway. But when you get that factory card, I got an upgrade. So instantly, I'm moving with my I'm moving and upgrading at the same time. Why would I ever want to do move? Like, moving 3 people makes sense, but it kind of negated itself. If I had anything else, like an enlist or anything else underneath that, it would have been better for me as I got so many free upgrades. But that's just how the game works. That's how the cards. That's literally how the cards go.
Yeah, and in my opinion, that's some of the downside of the game. If I could have a downside to the game, is. But I mean, part of it's a little beauty too, with some luck. But there are some factory cards that are just amazing, and then some factory cards that are garbage.
Yep.
And then same thing goes for encounters. You could go to 3 different encounters, just keep picking up mediocre to garbage encounter cards. Someone else just makes it to 2 encounters the whole game, but they get 2 of the pay $2 for 5 resources, and they're just swimming in everything that they have.
Well, that or the encounter one that everyone recommends is the best is getting the mech. Because if you can go to the encounter one by the second move and you get a mech for free, or for whatever, like for some popularity or for some money, you're basically like, well, I can now instantly cross while everyone else is still trying to gather those resources to do things. So definitely clear advantages on that, but that is, again, like I said, what makes it fair. Because there is some randomness to it. It would be really stupid if it was all, hey, we're just going to do it across the board. So
yeah.
One other thing I'd like to say for the game is that I actually really enjoy how some games, when they're really big, like this takes up a lot of space. This is a big boy game, I like to call it. But there's no more growing with it. It is, hey, here's everything. As long as it's got a space, there's no extra. Other games like Ark Nova, it's a giant board. You have a board, you have to build more of that, so you're expanding even more. There's a lot of stuff that needs more space, so it gets bigger on top of being a lot of, like a space hog to begin with. This would fit perfectly on this table. It fit perfectly, you have a square table, and it was chef's kiss. 4 people, you could not get a 5th, but 4 people, beautiful, like perfect.
Yeah.
So that's all you need. Once you know how big the game is, you don't need to be, let me go get extra expansions for the table. No, it's exactly how big it is, start to finish.
Okay. One of the expansions, the areas are already built in.
Yeah, yep. They did that ahead of time, knowing that they're going to do an expansion, which is both smart and greedy.
Yeah. Speaking of player counts, one thing I do like about the game is I've played it at multiple different player counts, and I enjoy it at pretty much every player count that I've played it at. It seems to still work really well. Some of these games, it just doesn't seem to work quite right at like either a super high player count like the 5 or a 2-player game. You'd want to play it with like a 3 or 4 to be the best, but I've never experienced this where it wasn't a good game at any player count that I have played it at.
Yeah, I think 5, like, it would just come down to 5 would be, there'd be a lot more fights.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be a lot more, like, punishment. There'd be a lot more thinking as far as what you do. Every action you do would have a consequence in some capacity whenever you moved. But with 2 people, you don't have that. So combat stars are kind of hard to get with 2 people, because I've done two players, I think 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the hardest part, was it's like, well, I'm not even going to go for combat because whatever. Well, with 3 people, we could do combat every single turn if we wanted to, because why not?
Because you can hit something out there.
Yeah.
Where if it's a 2-player and you're trying for a combat, well, you know he's going to either be trying to stop you as much as possible, or he knows he has no chance to.
Yeah.
And he will just slough, essentially.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I guess in 2-player it might be different, but yeah, 3+ the game really
starts to shine.
and encourages the movement, and you're rewarded for moving and moving aggressively.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because if you just stay in your spot and I can keep producing and trading and doing these things and turtling, I mean, it's only going to get you so far, and those people that are out there, and then you leave them out there to do whatever they want. Now they're going to be they're going to be gaining space, picking up factory cards, picking up encounters, getting more different resources, because you're limited to the 3 in your thing. So it's all really about, get movement really fast and get out there. Yeah. And it'll reward you for being one of the first few out there.
True. Yep. It is very much like that. One thing I would say against the game itself is that it has a steep learning curve. There is a lot of actions. I think the instruction book is like 46, 48 pages or something along those lines. There's a lot of information in those pages, and you're going to miss some things the first couple times you play. If you play with anyone experienced at all, expect to lose. Like, that is my only gripe with these kind of games. As much as I love them, it's almost always, if I'm teaching somebody new, it's either I'm throwing the game so they have fun and they enjoy it, because winning the game always makes you feel better, or they're going to get stomped and never want to play it again. So it's kind of like where do you kind of go? And it's kind of difficult to kind of balance.
Yeah, and it depends upon the person too, because some people, you'll stomp them, but they understand, they're like starting to understand how it goes, and be like, okay, I know I can do what you just did.
Even if you get stomped, give it 3 to 4 real good solid attempts. Give it the old college try. And before you sign off on this one, but that's one of my only negatives about the game, is that you will get stomped the first couple times playing against anybody with experience. Because that was you. You got stomped. We both did. Craig just rolled us.
Yeah, Craig just rolled us. But you can see how the game was played. All the actions in this game are the things that I like to do in games. Mm-hmm. And so it intrigues me and is like, okay, so how can I better do my turns to get this out faster?
Be more efficient.
Yeah, efficiency is key. Going with that, we'll just go into our ratings here, and I'm going to be very high. This is probably my favorite game now. I've been pretty addicted picking up all of the different Scythe content and thinking. I find myself at work, at home, thinking of Scythe and how can I do this or this action or whatever. And I don't know, it's totally taken over. So I'm going to give it a 9.5. There's not much wrong I can say with this game. Yes, there's some luck or whatever, but not everything needs to be about skill 100% of the time. And the thing is, in my opinion, the encountering people and how you interact with people in the game changes some of that. I mean, but later on though, there are combos that are just way better than others, but you can limit that. You can take some out, not play with it, implement a bidding system, give someone a handicap for a board that they got. I don't know. It's just a really fun game, and I enjoy playing it all of the time.
Yeah, my score, I'd say about a 9.2. I really like the game. It's one of my top favorite games. Right now, I would say it's probably my favorite or second favorite. One thing I have to say about it is when you're kind of looking at the instruction manuals and you're playing it, this game kind of falls into one of the categories of it looks extremely daunting, but once you kind of get your hands into it, you kind of just realize it's mostly a rinse and repeat action selection type game, and it's not as scary as it kind of would lead to be, you know.
I'm just gonna start calling them shampoo games because that's what you do. You rinse, either repeat. That's what it is. Like literally, that's what, like we play a lot of those that are like that. But
especially if you're rusty. Well, you don't rinse and lather. You just repeat.
Don't need the rinse. Don't need the lather. Those are some high scores. I'm gonna be the odd one out and kind of say I would give it about an 8.4. I enjoy the game. I really like everything about it. I really enjoy it overall, but I think I have to take a page out of your book and say the feels is just not 100% there. I do find myself thinking about it and like wanting to get better strategies, but also as I'm playing the game, it's fun while I'm kind of playing the game, but you can kind of tell there's a point at some point where you go, I'm just out of it. And it's like, well, now it's not really that fun. Or I'm not really a rusher in general, and when you're 1 star away from winning and I'm still 2 stars out, it's like, well, this has been a fun game. I guess I'm not even going to be close to it, and it just, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and it just isn't all there for me. Love the game to death. Would want to play it every time we can, but just not one of my favorites. I think that there are other games that do other things much better. It's still very well rounded, still very much worth checking out. But yeah, 8.5. So yeah, those are our reviews. What are your thoughts on the game? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you? Yeah, he's a big fan. It has a board, so it's a board game.
It's a board game.
So, well, let us know in the comments down below, and just what are some of your experiences with it? Did you get stomped the first time? Do you only play with the expansions? We haven't played with those yet, but we have them. We just haven't played with them yet. Just what are your overall experiences with it? Let us know in the comments down below. If you found the video helpful at all, if you liked it, go ahead and give it a like. If you want to follow us on our board game journey, consider subscribing. That'll really help us out, kind of checking out our content. We do reviews, obviously, how to play in setups. This one's going to be a beast. But also just kind of our thoughts on board games in general. So consider subscribing if that sounds like it's your cup of tea. That's about it, though. So thank you all for watching. I've been Eric.
I'm Rich.
I'm Craig.
And we are Whose Turn?